When I grew up, I ate a lot of Italian-American cuisine. Meat sauce, to me, was generally meat, like ground beef, with tomato sauce around it. It was very sauce-heavy, and so my world was kind of rocked when I discovered true Bolognese by a chef in New York City, a friend of mine, a long while ago. Today's sponsor is Little Bit Sweets. They are one of my favorite candy manufacturers and are from my neighborhood in New York City. You can check them out online at littlebitsweets.com and be sure to check out all of their products. They're super delicious. I think that their salted caramel is some of the best I've ever had. Check them out online at littlebitsweets.com. So today we are talking about pasta alla bolognese. Alla bolognese means from Bologna. Bologna is a city in Italy. It's kind of in the northern part of Italy, sandwiched between Florence, Venice, and Milan. And it is the birthplace of such culinary greats as mortadella and Parmigiano Reggiano. As I said, the bolognese that you'll find in America often resembles nothing of the classic bolognese. And some people argue that the classic bolognese doesn't actually resemble the original bolognese made a long time ago. The item most in question is tomatoes. You see, around the 5th century, we have the first recorded evidence of bolognese existing. There's a problem here because at that time, tomatoes were not in Italy. Tomatoes didn't make their way to Italy until around the 16th century. So the original bolognese was sans tomato. Around the 16th century is kind of when the more classic bolognese came about, and then modern variations, at least here in the United States, have this really imbalanced proportion of tomato and tomato sauce to meat. Traditionally, bolognese sugo, or sauce, is a very meat-focused condiment for the pasta. Generally, the meat is 3 to 4 different types. You'll often see beef, veal, pork, and sometimes something like pancetta. You'll also have a dairy put into the sauce, wine. I like it with white wine. I think traditionally they use white wine. Some people obviously will be shaking and turning in their graves right now and saying, no, it must be red. And then, of course, there are some tomatoes, and some people opt to using like a crushed tomato product. Some people just put in a little bit of tomato paste to just kind of make the flavor a little bit more round and luscious. Bolognese is one of those dishes where you put two grandmothers in a room and they'll fight each other to death because everybody has their own way of making bolognese and everybody's way is correct. If you want to go totally traditional, you would use tagliatelle. That is because spaghetti was from southern Italy and it wasn't around during that time when they were making bolognese. However, I don't believe that that's the best option because I think that there are many better things in the grocery stores today, talking about dry pastas, that can better hold on to the meaty sauce and get that meat all up in the nooks and crannies of the pasta, which is why I always go for a pasta with a hole in the center of it and kind of a rough edge. I think that really holds onto the sauce best. So today we're going to make bolognese the way that I make bolognese, which is a combination of a lot of recipes that I've learned over time. I've sort of perfected it at this point, so here we go. In a heavy bottom pan, put a few glugs of olive oil, a small diced up onion, 3 diced up carrots, and 5 minced up garlic cloves. Let this sweat until it's translucent. You're not going to caramelize it because you don't want all that sweetness. You just want to let it soften, so use a low flame, and when it starts to become transparent, that's time to kill the heat. Now add a pound of ground beef, a pound of pork, and a pound of veal, and cook while stirring until they're gray, but actually don't brown them. Now I know a lot of people are going to give me slack about this because when you brown something, you caramelize it and it adds a lot of flavor. However, I believe that once you sear the meat, you're preventing a lot of moisture from going into it, and the milk as well as the tomato juices and the wine do a lot to kind of make a luscious flavor that I don't think that you get if you sear the meat. So cook it until it loses its color and then proceed. Meanwhile, open up a can of whole peeled San Marzano tomatoes. You don't need to use DOP or San Marzano tomatoes, it just means that they're certified and they're actually from Italy. Make sure your hands are clean and then go through each tomato, removing any hard stem bits and crushing the tomatoes with your hands. By this time, your meat should be gray and you're going to add a cup of your favorite white wine. Drinking wine, please, not cooking wine. Bring this to a simmer and let the majority of the liquid evaporate about 15 to 20 minutes. Once most of the wine has cooked off, add 1 cup of whole milk and keep cooking until that has evaporated. There should be some milk solids floating around in the mixture. Now add your can of crushed San Marzano tomatoes along with any juices that you might have collected from the can and give it a stir. At this point, you need to just wait. You have to wait for about 2 to 3 hours. Put your pot on the lowest possible setting you possibly can. And if you're starting to see a lot of rapid bubbling and simmering, you might want to put a frying pan below it to help diffuse the heat a little bit more. You're looking for like 1 bubble every minute or so. Really slow, really low. At the end of 3 hours, your sauce is going to be luscious and thick, and it is the perfect accompaniment for any type of pasta, though I think, as I said, round noodles with holes are the best. Be sure to make pasta, season it with salt before you add it while it's al dente, don't rinse your pasta off, and toss it in the pot before you serve it. So give this version of Bolognese a shot. I think that you're gonna find that it's a lot different from what you might have grown up with, unless you grew up in Bologna. And either way, it's a really pleasant dish. I think you'll really enjoy it. If you want, you can try and use all beef, but I really recommend the trifecta of meats because you get a good amount of fat from the pork and you get a much springier, supple texture from the veal. The 3 work together really nicely. Tune in tomorrow for another What's This Food, and be sure to check out our sponsor, littlebitsweets.com. See you tomorrow.